Welcome to the line change. And what if I told you the Vancouver Canucks could solve their center depth problem without breaking the bank or giving up a top prospect? While everyone's talking about big name rentals and expensive free agents like Mitch Marner and Sam Bennett, there's a 22-year-old former first-round pick sitting in Columbus who might be exactly what Vancouver needs. Cole Sillinger has quietly put up respectable numbers on a struggling Blue Jackets team, and with Columbus potentially looking to retool, he could be available for the right price. But here's the question every Canucks fan should be asking. Is Sillinger the missing piece that could take this team to the next level, or would trading for him be another costly mistake? We're going to dive right into it, and we're going to talk about Cole Sillinger as a potential trade target for the Vancouver Canucks. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. This is, of course, an article from our friends at Canucks Army that dives into this, and it's written by Stefan Roget. So let's go ahead and just dive right into it. At first blush, Cole Sillinger might not seem like the sort of player likely to end up on the trading block. The 6'1", 202-pound center just turned 22 a couple weeks ago and is still just 4 seasons separated from being selected 12th overall in the 2021 entry draft. 4 seasons, we should note, spent almost entirely in the NHL. Furthermore, Sillinger is a Columbus Blue Jacket who not only was born in Columbus, but whose father is a former Blue Jacket. How unique is that? Honestly, it doesn't feel like the Blue Jackets have been around long enough to have second-generation players, but here we are, all the same. Take a closer look. However, there are signs of a potential departure. For one, Sillinger's development appears to have stalled a bit in Columbus, with this most recent season's 33 points being a career high, but only just beating his previous highs of 31 and 32 points. Furthermore, Sillinger is caught in a bit of a numbers game that has largely condemned him to bottom 6 minutes. Seems likely to for the foreseeable future. He's got Sean Monahan and Adam Fantilli ahead of him right now, and some key center prospects like Caden Lindstrom on the way soon. Then there's the whole very public breakup with a pop star thing. There's not a lot of precedent for how that would affect a young player's development, but it's just got to have an impact. A clean, fresh start in another organization, especially one with some room for Sillinger to grow in the top 6, might be in both he and the Blue Jackets' best interest. And Vancouver is certainly a team with some room at the center position right now. Besides, that whole hometown thing is a little overstated. Sillinger's father, the legendarily well-traveled Mike, is a former Canuck too. And although Sillinger was born in Columbus, he considers himself Canadian and Western Canadian at that, calling Saskatchewan home. It might just be time for a proper homecoming. So let's dive into the player himself. Sillinger is the very definition of a well-rounded center and has been ever since his draft year. He's got the size, skating ability, and willingness to engage defensively that have made him a true two-way center from the get-go. But scouts at the time also spoke highly of the potential of Sillinger's offensive game. He gets a lot of accolades for his heavy, dangerous wrist shot, as well as for his ability to drive the center lane. He's someone who's long had the sort of skill set that suggests an eventual breakout, but it hasn't happened yet. Then again, Sillinger has had a atypical upbringing in hockey. He played 52 games in the WHL before transferring to the USHL for his draft year of 2020/2021. Then after being selected at 12th overall, he stepped right into the NHL for the Blue Jackets, posting a respectable 16 goals and 31 points as a teenage rookie on a Columbus roster where only one player cracked 60 points. Sillinger had a dreadful sophomore slump of just 3 goals and 11 points in 64 games and saw some time in the AHL during 2022 and 2023, but he bounced back ably the next season, rebounding to 13 goals and 32 points in 77 games. That brings us to last season. Despite missing time with a shoulder injury, Sillinger hit that aforementioned career high of 33 points in just 66 games. It's not exactly the production one might expect from a recent 12th overall pick, and especially not one we're pitching as a 2C solution for the Canucks, but context is everything. Right or wrong, the Blue Jackets have been leaning into Sillinger's two-way reputation. A quick glance at his advanced analytics doesn't make him look like a Selke candidate, with each of his stats like Corsi, expected goals, and scoring chance control all well under 50% in each of his four NHL seasons. But that's playing for a Columbus franchise that has mightily struggled for most of Sillinger's career. To wit, his on-ice save percentage has been under 90% in three of his four NHL seasons, and he's always had a low PDO as a result. And it's not just that Columbus, excuse me, has been bad defensively during Sillinger's tenure, but how much of the defensive load he's been asked to take on as a result. Take a look at Sillinger's quality of competition chart, courtesy of Hockey Viz. It demonstrates a center who was being asked to play a shutdown role, with the majority of his minutes coming against opposing top lines and top sixes, and all at the age of 21. That's a lot for anyone to handle, never mind someone who is still trying to get up to speed after being thrown to the wolves at 18. Sillinger has the appearance of a player whose offensive abilities have been hindered by his deployment at the NHL level, but with him being as young as he is, there definitely seems to be lots of potential left on the table for that expected breakout to still occur, so long as Sillinger can go somewhere that will offer him greater offensive opportunity. Now let's take a look at the cost and how much it may cost. Sillinger remains under contract for next season at $2.25 million cap hit, which then expires into RFA status. As such, and with some $41 million in cap space heading into the offseason, the Blue Jackets are in no real rush to trade Sillinger and certainly won't be doing so for free. But the Blue Jackets are in need of some roster rearranging, and they now have the ability to deal from a rare position of strength down the middle. Converting Sillinger into a different kind of roster asset, either directly or indirectly, seems like smart business for them. The Canucks don't have much to offer in terms of roster players. Their blue line seems settled for the time being, and any wingers they might offer are either a bit too old for Columbus's purposes, like Connor Garland, or not quite up to moving the needle trade-wise. In seeking Sillinger, we see two basic paths for the Canucks to go down. On one hand, we could definitely see the Blue Jackets having some interest in Thatcher Demko, even if just for a season. Their goaltending has often been the bane of their existence, and doing something about that has to be priority this offseason. The second and far more likely path is something involving the Canucks' first-round pick, which has been essentially earmarked for a center acquisition. Here we think the valuation might be fairly straight up. The Canucks' pick sits at 15th overall, and Sillinger was drafted at 12th overall 4 years ago. It's hard to argue that he's lost value since then, what with his 4 years of NHL experience, but it's also hard to argue that he's gained much value. Each forward drafted ahead of Sillinger, with the exception of Tyler Boucher, has scored more points in fewer games. Throw in the fact that his 2025 draft class, or that this 2025 draft class is considered a relatively weak one, and we can see a world in which this year's 15th overall is considered equivalent to the 12th overall pick of a few years ago. In other words, we can see a 1-for-1 trade of the 15th overall pick and Sillinger. Let's take a look at the fit and how he fits with the Vancouver Canucks. For the Blue Jackets' purposes, they could either use that pick to make a selection and strengthen their youth infusion, or most likely flip it for a different roster piece. The Canucks, meanwhile, get a potential 2C in Sillinger and one with some serious staying power. Acquire Sillinger now, and you get him with contract control at the cusp of his expected prime. Sign him to a decent enough extension, and you get to keep him through that prime as well. One would hope that Sillinger would be given less defensively responsibility and more offensive opportunity in Vancouver, but that he's already so capable and willing of playing a two-way game does make him a somewhat natural fit for Adam Foote's continuation of Rick Tocchet's structure and system. It's also worth noting that Sillinger plays a much more direct center lane heavy game than do the Canucks' other two top centers in Elias Pettersson and Philip Hedl. That heavy shot could pair nicely with a playmaking winger like Garland. He needs a little work on faceoffs, sure, but that's work the Canucks have done before. An acquisition of Sillinger really seems like it could be mutually beneficial for both the player and the team. But when we talk fit, we really see this player as a way for the Canucks to check off a lot of their boxes on their to-do list in one fell swoop to strengthen the center position, diversify the talent, increase scoring potential, and make the current roster younger all in one go. That's a tire that is well worth kicking this summer. So that is Cole Sillinger, and I want to know what you guys think. Having read this article and heard Stefan Roget talk about the type of player that Cole Sillinger is, and knowing how young he is, I'll admit I am convinced that perhaps Cole Sillinger could be at least a target for the Canucks and a possible, uh, acquisition for the Canucks. As the article stated, it mentioned that we can literally trade our first round pick for Sillinger, and then we could still go out there and potentially get another center or rather another forward. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think about Cole Sillinger being a potential trade target for the Vancouver Canucks to fill the need at center and to add to our center depth that is sorely lacking and has been ever since we traded JT Miller? But once again, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this potential target. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. And if you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks as well as your Abbotsford Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you never miss a single video. You can also find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on Twitter/X at LineChangeVan. You can also find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. Feel free to follow us on all of our social media platforms. And as always, if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow on there as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. But that's going to do it for me in this video. As always, go Canucks go, and I'll see you guys in the next video.